We have a lot to talk about. On February 10th, 2023, the gaming world was in hot debate over the newest entry into the Harry Potter franchise, coming in the form of Hogwarts Legacy. Some people, revolted against it because it was just a product of an evil person, J.K. Rowling. There were calls for massive boycotts at the time. If you supported the game, you were a terrible, terrible person. Here's how that turned out. With over 15 million units sold wide, we can safely say that this isn't the case when it comes to this game. Did the gaming company that brought you Cars 3, Driven to Win, one of my personal favorites, were they able to pull out all the stops to deliver an amazing game that could sell this much? Or were sales driven by a power of a massive franchise that has a global footholds and with all of the press that they got over the drama of this release? Or were sales even really that good? We'll talk about it. In this review, I hope to ease your mind on what the game is actually like and help you make a difference if you should be the 15 millionth and first person to buy this video game. A few disclaimers before I get into the review. I played this game on my computer, a beast of a modern computer, coming in the form of an i7 13700K and an NVIDIA 4080. I'm running this game at 1440p on the highest settings. Keep this in mind throughout my review. Before getting into anything else, let's talk about the story. The story is the first thing that I like to talk about with all these reviews, and perhaps one of the strongest things this game brings to the table. It was really great, to put it simply. This was something that came as a huge surprise to me playing this game. It actually had an original, well thought out story. It wasn't anything like the Harry Potter stories that we have come to know and love throughout the years. Harry isn't born for like another 100 years or something after the game takes place. We have an entirely new cast of characters, everyone bringing something new to the story. I don't want to spoil anything here, so don't worry, but I do want to point out a few things that the main story did. It had some good themes, not judging people based on their appearance, being able to rely on others. If you're born with great power, then you can blow anything you like up into a million pieces if you really want to with no repercussions. Once you hit certain spots in the story, it does move the seasons along just like it does in Harry Potter. So if you enjoyed that from like the movies, especially where they kind of broke down the story into like, the beginning of the school year and like the fall, then the winter, and then they had like the spring, all that sort of deal, then you'll like that. It mainly just changed the atmosphere of the game and how everything looked throughout the castle, maybe added some decorations here and there. It was really neat, and it's something you don't see in most games these days. The main story was a decent length, but I would have liked to see a little bit longer for a AAA game these days. If you really wanted to just plow through it, then you just could have if you just really wanted to. But luckily they put a lot of stops in there to make it so you couldn't do this. But the characters were mostly good, with several being quite annoying, unfortunately, but you don't have to interact with them that much if you don't really want to and do their side quests. The side quests actually do bring a lot to the story, which is phenomenal. I love that. For many points throughout the story, it forces you to do a certain side quest to get a new spells that are required to move into the story. Now, some of these are required, and it makes you get them, and it's fine. Most spells in the game are through optional side quests that you can go do, like all the unforgivable curses, for example. But moving on, it felt really organic, honestly, that you have to take your classes and interact with your classmates since you are the new student at the school. And the way they incorporated it into the game was really well done, and I give them props, honestly. I mean, it's just like, oh man, before I go and do this quest, I should probably go learn something for my class, and everyone tells you to do your studies and everything, and you're like, why would I want to do that? I just want to go and explore. But here we go. The first major downside in the story was that they canceled Quidditch for the year. This was a major disappointment for me that played, I played the old GameCube Quidditch game back in the day, the Harry Potter Quidditch game. Anybody else? I dated myself there. Oh well. It genuinely feels like they were just coming up on deadlines and decided to cut it instead of adding something that could have been, one of the best side quests in the game, and added a whole nother game. I mentioned this in the story because in the section of the review because it is brought up a lot in the story of the video game, mainly to remind you of the whole, what they stole from you. It's so stupid. Why cut Quidditch? Like, you already have broom flying in the game, just add Quidditch. It's so dumb. I don't know. And especially because it was a $70 game. Quidditch will be like a $10 DLC in the future, a $30 DLC in the future. It's just so dumb. Why didn't you include it in the base game? Throughout the story, there were many ups and downs, twists and turns, and surprises that really make this game stand out and stand up to other AAA stories out there. If allowed, you could probably plow through the story in 10 hours or less, like I mentioned before, but they do make you do stuff to make the game last longer, which I really appreciated. I appreciate a game that lets you plow through it and just you can beat it as fast as you can, and I appreciate a game that has organic ways to get you to play the game longer, not something like unnecessary quest grinds that are really annoying. Moving more on to the side quests, they were honestly more fun and interesting than a lot of the main story. And that being said, even though I still said the story was great, right? And I'm saying this about the side quests. You need to do a lot of the side quests in the game if you want to get the full experience out of it. Even I didn't do everything, but I did most of the side quests, or a lot of the side quests. So, I had a pretty good feel for what was happening out there. Most of these quest lines had so many quests that if you that you had to complete, that the level of storytelling required to get through these was actually kind of insane, and it blew my mind. A lot of the time when I play these kinds of games, I kind of blast through the side content as much as possible before I get this feeling that I'm about to quit the game. Maybe I should finish the game. And that's what happened to me here. But I think I would go back and play the side stuff if I wasn't busy playing other games, If you're like this, it really makes you think differently about playing the game, since many of the side quests are essentially required to beat the game. I didn't think this is a bad or a good thing, just putting it out there if you don't really like doing side quests or completionism. Speaking of completionism, this game is full of this stuff. It honestly reminds me of like the games of old where they had so many things you had to go collect, and they're really well hidden, a lot of them, and most are just out in plain sight, which I appreciate when you have to collect like 10,000 things. There's so many things you can do, and the way you did it is you spam your Revelio to find everything and the hidden things around the world. With a massive world filled with so many things to find, I can see this game keeping you occupied for quite a long time before you 100% it. Most open world RPGs these days are like this. They fill the world with a bunch of random stuff for you to collect to increase the playtime numbers for shareholders and etc. But I feel like this game really incorporated it organically into it, unlike a lot of other RPGs these days, especially some it doesn't really do anything for you except it just gives you lore about what's happening and what's this doing inside the thing, which I really appreciated, and it pops it up so it almost essentially makes you read it, which was really nice. To summarize everything I've said about the story so far, it was really good. I honestly think it would be a lot better story if this was your first time playing Harry Potter and you didn't know anything about this. I say this because you have certain expectations going into it, and knowing everything from the movies and books, and it's just without it, I think if you don't know or know what to expect, I think it could be a good thing. If you play the game for the story, it does a great job and does an even better job with all the side quests in the game. Very good job coming from the company that made a video game based on a movie about cars and talk. That's weird. Okay. Here's the next point of the review, and probably something that I feel really strongly about, the gameplay. Honestly, this kind of gameplay it gets so stale to me. I'm not a big fan of the whole Arkham Knight style of games where you get an indicator when to dodge and block, have the rock, paper, scissors combat against enemies, and you have dozens of enemies that you can just wait around for you to have their turn to attack. And there was one boss fight, there was 30 people around me, and one or two people would shoot at me at the same time. I've played many of these styles of combat games, and I think that they could have done a little bit more to keep it engaging and fun throughout the game. I played it on the hardest difficulty, and I know I'm something of a gamer myself, but if enemies have rock, paper, scissors mechanics, why can't they do that to us too? You know what I'm saying? I have to press a certain block if somebody's sending something, and I have to listen to what they're casting or something like that, just to make it a little bit harder, especially when I'm playing on the hardest difficulty. I don't know, that's just something I'm thinking about. And a lot of the time, if you did mess up, you could just wiggle out of their trap or whatever they sent. I don't know. I'm just being nitpicky. Overall, it was a fun at first, but it became very repetitive throughout the game, and it really made it a chore to fight more than 2 to 3 enemies at once, which I feel like other fighting games like Arkham Knight and all those, they do a lot better than this one. Don't get me wrong, it was still a good combat style for this type of game. It was very smooth, honestly more smooth than a lot of other ones, and usually everything followed the inputs that you wanted to do, with a few missed inputs here and there. But if you did mess something up, it gave you a lot of invincibility frames, so you didn't get comboed into oblivion, which almost happened a few times, but luckily I had those frames. If you like this kind of style of combat games where you have the rock, paper, scissors and you just like keep hitting them and stuff, then you won't have any issues with this. But to me, it's just not the best style of combat. You know, the only thing that was redeeming about it for me was that you're usually you're ranged, and usually in these kinds of games you're melee. So it has this kind of new perspective and new style when it comes to this tried and tested form of combat in these video games. There was all the good stuff I had to say about the game. What could possibly make this not game of the year for me? The #1 selling game of this year so far. I don't know about Baldur's Gate 3, but we'll get back into that one later. And boy, oh boy, this game runs like absolute dog shit. I'm not kidding. I understand that I am streaming the game. I am running other things that will make it harder to run this game, like OBS, my Twitch stuff in the background. But I've run other games with ray tracing on without DLSS, and they run better than this game in normal rasterization when I played this game with DLSS 3 on. The performance is just abysmal on PC. And remember my disclaimer, if you are a console player, I'm sure it's just as bad, but it's because it's locked at 30 FPS, so you're used to that sort of thing for if you've played it for a long time. You know, I would much rather have a stable 60 FPS where I wouldn't dip into the 50s, like 50% of my frame rate, over the 120 FPS I was getting like outside of the castle, but I would still dip into the 60s sometimes. And this huge variation of these 1% lows is just insane. This was nearly everywhere in the game as well. You know, going to certain parts of Hogwarts, boom, frame rate, it's gone. Don't even think about frame rate. Hogsmeade, honestly, I found Hogsmeade worse for me. Don't even try to go there. Flying through zones, sometimes it depends where you are, but good luck. I don't know. This isn't an isolated issue either. I have done a lot of research into why this game is doing it, and there just seems to be a lot of community mobs to help the game run better. But I was doing a vanilla playthrough, no mods. So this game just goes off an old archaic game design where it just favors consoles, and unfortunately it's just a really bad port, you know. And when they going deep, you know, this is blah 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 computer stuff, but they hammer your main core in your CPU, and the rest of your CPU is just not doing anything. So your CPU is at like 50% usage, and you're like, dang, shouldn't I be getting better performance? Like my GPU is at 90 something percent or whatever. Shouldn't I give it? Nope, that's just not how it works. And even mine, it was like, it depended on what I did too, what I had running in the background to see which ones put the load on the first core, but whatever. I understand it's easier and cheaper to develop for a console and then port it over to a PC, but you still have a huge community on the computer that wants to play your game as well. To me, this destroys everything good about this game. And when something runs this poorly, even worse than other AAA games that got a lot of heat for running poorly, Cyberpunk, it's just very sad to see. Now, if you're running this thing at 1080p, I'm sure it runs a lot better, but I ran it at 1440. You know, don't care about high frame rate, just go play it on console. It looks just as good these days. And then this doesn't really matter to you, but to me, this is a deal breaker when playing a game. You know, sometimes I would just turn off the game and play something else because it was running so poorly. I just turned off the stream because I was mad. It was so bad. You know, in the end, this is what I will remember when playing the game, the terrible performance. And to contrast this, the graphics do look really good. The character models are a little bit goofy. They're animated a little bit weird. And many times they would bug out and do stuff, but the world around you looks amazing. The graphics are so detailed and so nice, but it shouldn't be running like this, especially when this was around the time when like Jedi Fallen Order or whatever, Survivor or whatever came out and ran horrendously on high-end hardware because it was designed for the PlayStation and Xbox. And that tanks the score for me for a bit. You know, not very much. It still had so much going for it, but it does really hurt my review. All in all, it was a massive disappointment for me in the terms of gameplay, or not gameplay, but graphics and how it ran and everything on my computer. I shouldn't have these problems for the next 5 years. And I'm having it on the same year I just made my brand new PC. That's insane. Now, before we go over to the summary of this review, there's something that needs to be talked about. If you don't feel like it is morally okay to purchase this video game, then don't. Please don't go and harass people who do play the game. And I know there are a lot of things being thrown around, so many people on both sides fighting for it and against this game, and honestly, who cares? Now, it's months after this game's release, nobody talks about it anymore. It was so heated for a little bit, but really, who cares? I hate the argument like, oh, you know, There's no ethical consumption under the, like, who cares? Play what you want to play as long as you're not hurting and bothering other people. Who cares? And just don't buy the game. Don't play it. Nobody cares. Go pirate it. Who cares? They're already billionaires. Like, who really cares? Now, who the people who mostly helping are the people the game devs who went from making Cars 3 to this really good game, and that's who you're really supporting. And I heard people say that if you really want to support them, then go purchase Cars 3 Driven to Win and then pirate this game. So I don't know. And after that first little bit, nobody really cares about it anymore. I was playing it, I was streaming it, nobody came in and said anything, you know, it's whatever. But it's one thing to say all that, but then honestly, like, come on guys, please don't force your views onto other people. It's just crazy these days. Oh, man. Sad, really. But I'm here to play video games. It was a really good video game. The people who made it did a really good job, and I had fun playing it. So to summarize this game, it was a good game. A lot better than I thought it was going to be honest. With over 15 million units in sales and over $1 billion in revenue, this game has left a mark on 2023 in the gaming world, and honestly, it's in the running for Game of the Year. There's a few other games out there right now, Tears of the Kingdom, Baldur's Gate 3, that are going to give it a run for its money, but we'll see there at the end of the year. And this game blows out any other Harry Potter game, blow it out of the water, and it's not really even close. So if you're a Harry Potter fan, get this game. Now that's it for me, guys. I'm Llamas. If you guys want to watch more of this, please let me know down in the description below. Leave a like, comment, subscribe, come follow my Twitch channel. I don't care. See y'all later. Peace.